This public... Hi, this is George from the Return of the King channel. On October 23rd, the 7th month on the Jewish calendar used at the time of Christ comes to an end, and the 8th month begins. Psalm 81:3 declares, "Blow the trumpet on the new moon at the appointed time on our solemn feast day." In Scripture, the number 8 represents new beginnings. The beginning of each month is an appointed time marked by the blowing of trumpets. On the day of your gladness also, and at your appointed feasts, and at the beginnings of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings. They shall be a reminder of you before your God. I am the Lord your God. Numbers 10:10. The Sanhedrin knew the new moon would be sighted on either the 29th or 30th day of the month. So on the 29th, this would happen. 2 credible witnesses would go out after sunset on the 29th day to look for the first thin crescent of the moon in the western sky. If they saw it, they would travel immediately, sometimes even on the Sabbath, to Jerusalem and report to the Sanhedrin. If no sighting was possible, due to clouds, for example, the 30th day automatically became the final day of the month, and the next day began the new month by default. The Mishnah details how the witnesses were examined carefully. The head of the Sanhedrin would question them separately. In which direction was the crescent seen? Towards the north or the south? How high was it? How wide was it? What was its appearance? If their testimonies matched, the Nazi president would declare, "It is sanctified." The gathered people would then respond, "It is sanctified, it is sanctified." This public declaration made the new month official and holy. Everything I just described would take about 1 to 2 hours to complete. By the time the first day of the new month was officially declared, it was most likely completely dark. Completely dark. Once the new month was sanctified, signal fires, beacon chains were lit on mountain tops to spread the news quickly throughout the land of Israel and beyond, especially to the diaspora communities in Babylon. Fires were placed from the Mount of Olives outward, forming a line of communication. Later, when enemies began to light false fires to confuse the Jews, the system changed to sending messengers instead. The sanctification of the new moon was not merely an administrative act. It had religious and prophetic weight. Psalm 81:3 mentions, "Blow the trumpet at the new moon, at the full moon on our feast days." This connected the new month to the shofar blast, especially significant at Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the 7th month. The visible crescent symbolized renewal, resurrection, and divine order, a monthly reminder that God governs time itself. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15:51 and 52, "Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet." According to TorahCalendar.com, the twinkling of an eye refers to the end of evening twilight, that fleeting, unknown moment when day gives way to night. Paul is revealing when the rapture will occur, just after sunset, when twilight ends and total darkness begins. The symbolism is powerful. The light has left the world, and darkness has taken its place. The Talmud discusses the twilight period as a zone of uncertainty. When does day end and night begin? The sages debate how long twilight lasts, and some say it's impossible to precisely quantify it, and that night enters when day leaves, likened to a blink or twinkling of an eye. For example, as cited in one summary, Rabbi Yossi says, "Twilight does not last for a quantifiable period of time. Rather, it is like the blink of an eye. This night enters and that day leaves, and it is impossible to calculate it due to its brevity." The calendar used at the time of Christ can be found at TorahCalendar.com. According to that calendar, October 23rd falls on the 30th day of the Jewish month. From what we've just learned, there's no possibility of the first day of the 8th month beginning any later. By default, the first day of the 8th month would begin at sunset on October 23rd as seen from Jerusalem. But Paul tells us it will occur at the end of twilight, about 1.5 to 2 hours after sunset. Today, there is no Sanhedrin to declare the start of the new month, so now it must be declared from heaven. And according to Scripture, it requires 2 witnesses. In one of my books by a Messianic Jew, he makes a very interesting speculation about this. The 2 witnesses who will testify before God to mark the start of the 8th month will be 2 of these 3, Moses, Elijah, or Enoch. When we go up, 2 of them will come down to testify on the earth for 3.5 years. Revelation 11:3-12 describes 2 prophets who prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth, have power to shut the sky so that it does not rain, turn water into blood, strike the earth with plagues, are killed by the beast, and after 3.5 days are raised to life and taken up to heaven. View 1, Moses and Elijah. Miracles match their Old Testament ministries. Elijah stopped rain for 3.5 years. Moses turned water into blood and brought plagues on Egypt. These signs are identical to those of the witnesses. They appear together at the Transfiguration. Moses and Elijah appeared with Jesus, symbolizing the law and the prophets. Their reappearance in Revelation could signify God's final witness through the same 2 men before Christ's return. Both represent law and prophets. Moses equals law, Elijah prophets. Their joint testimony would fulfill Deuteronomy 19:15 by the mouth of 2 witnesses. Jewish expectation, Malachi 4:5. Elijah is prophesied to return before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Jewish tradition also expects Moses to appear again. View 2, Enoch and Elijah. Neither experience physical death. Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. Since Hebrews 9:27 says, "It is appointed unto men once to die," some believe these 2 must return to die as the 2 witnesses. They were Gentile and Jewish examples. Enoch, pre-flood Gentile prophet. Elijah, prophet to Israel. Together, they could represent God's witness to all humanity. Early church tradition. Some early Christian writers lean towards Enoch and Elijah, emphasizing the once-to-die argument. Here's a quick comparison summary.